Okay, looks like we're live on Sunday afternoon here in Denver. 1 p.m. and wherever you all are, welcome. Good to be back here. I'm just checking out some of these comments here. Petra, hello. New member, hello. Barcelona, Spain, beautiful. Very cool. Thanks for your comments. When the emission starts, please. I think it started. Physical heart issues, otherwise healthy at 47. Seeing a consultant and getting tests. Could the stress and anxiety of this process cause this? Very worried. Can you advise? So before I start answering questions, I wanted to make some announcements. First announcement is we had the Art of Living yearly retreat last year at the beautiful Art of Living Retreat Center in North Carolina. And it was amazing. It was very, very powerful. People were having shifts left and right. I mean, truly, it was like off the charts. And there was so much energetic movement. There was a lot of energetic shifting and kundalini and all kinds of wild and crazy stuff. So it was very powerful even a couple days in. And man, I don't know what it was that came together at that retreat, but it was quite something. But yeah, many people had all kinds of shifts, early awakening, like first awakening shifts, and deeper stage realization stuff that happened to many people. It was really, really fun, and quite a journey. So anyway, if anyone's interested in doing that next year, it's a trip. But we just finished that up, and you've probably seen some of my videos for the talks from that retreat I've put live. And then for Patron Circles members, there are all of the recorded Q&As and the recorded guided meditations from that retreat, as well as from every other retreat since I've been recording them, are available to Patron Circle members in the playlists. So that's done deal. It was a great retreat, and just so glad we did it. But we have another year before it comes around again. We'll do it again in December, the first week of December next year. I've already contracted with them. So that's that. And then there is an upcoming retreat in Australia, actually. So it's it's not a big retreat. So this will fill up pretty quick, probably. It's already filling up, but it's a combined retreat with myself, which is Simply Always Awake, and Violet Synergy, which is Violet. And we're going to do the retreat together. And it's at a retreat center in New South Wales, Australia. It's in April. If you're interested in that, it's actually on her website, the link to it. So you can go to violet-synergy.com, I think, and you'll find the description and a link. And so if you're interested in heading to Australia, or you live in Australia and you want to meet up with us for a week, come check it out. It's next April. It's really cool. It's got pretty much all of the modalities I typically do. So the guided meditation, talk, and Q&A. And it also has all of what Violet does. So she does inquiry, with group inquiry, which is more of an in-depth inquiry than, like, my Q&As don't necessarily go deep into inquiry usually, sometimes, but not like she does. She does it very structured and maybe not structured, but very deliberate and deep with one person at a time. And it's a group inquiry. And she also has her sound synergy, which is the sound meditation with singing bowls and guide, like words, so she guides people verbally through things. It's actually really, really powerful. In the retreat we did last week, it was really off the charts. And so yeah, she's going to have that, and then some intuitive movement, and I think some other modalities, but we're combining them. So we're going to do a combined retreat in Australia. So check it out if you're interested in that. And then the other retreat that's coming up has already been announced, but I think there are still spots left. I haven't checked in a while, but I'm pretty sure there are a handful left. It's in Kentucky, at the Kentucky Castle in Lexington, Kentucky, in May. And if you're interested in that, just go to wildhealthsummit.com, I think, but you can also just Google Wild Health Summit and it'll be there. That's the link. This one is multimodality. So it's all the things I usually do: guided meditation, Q&A, and talk. Plus we have large group activities. There are 4 different ones, I think. There's a guided intuitive movement based on seasonal music and a sort of guidance by this guy named Doug, which is awesome. I've done it before. It's a total blast. We do that one day. We do a breath work process another day with someone else who's very, very good. There are a couple other modalities. There's also 4 different small group Q&As with different non-duality speakers, teachers. Violet, Josh, Alma, and Chris will all be there. So you have that, and then you have a full day with the inside circle group from the documentary The Work that I love so much. That whole group is gonna have basically a 20-person intensive every single day. So you'll be in a group of 20 people. You'll do the intensive all day long just with that group. And so that's the Wild Health Summit retreat next May. Those are all the retreats coming up. Poetry contest is still on. We're not to 25,000 subscribers yet. We will be maybe in a month and a half or something. And then and then we'll judge and announce the winners and give away some awesome art. Really, really cool art. I think that's all the announcements for the moment. I haven't announced the double barrel non-duality this month, but it's a very fun guest. I'll probably get that up today, so you can see when that'll be. It's a couple weeks from now, I think. Can't remember the exact date. So those are the announcements, and let me get to some of these hellos, and then we can answer some questions. Hey, Josh. Hey, Tony. The Million Things. I love it. Hi there. Hi, Nina. Chevy Chase, Maryland. Tony's from Texas. Hey, that's cool. British Columbia, Canada. MXV Jim. Let's see. Jeannie from Black Mountain, North Carolina. Brad from Washington State. It is beautiful in Washington State. Tia from Frederick, Maryland. Hello. Hey, Ashley. Saw you last week. It was great to see you. My scrolling just did this funny thing that happens where it goes all the way to the bottom suddenly. I have to go back to the top. Saskatchewan, yeah. And David and Elaine, hello. From Southeast England, hello, hello. Terry, good to see you. Kansas City. Grace from Port Reyes Station, California, Port Reyes. Dahlia, love that name, from Stockholm, Sweden. Beautiful, very cool. Carrie from Maine, love Maine. Charlotte from Austin, hello. Caroline Silver from Yorkshire, UK, hello. Hey, Paulette from Hawaii, very cool. Mallory from the Gulf Coast. Sally from Sydney. All right, there we go. Come visit us. Come play with us. Debbie from Devon. Sherry from Oregon. Susan from Ireland. Beautiful. Pete from Michigan. Jenny from Israel. Hello, Jenny. Hope everything's safe where you are. Kent from Berkeley. Jenny from Los Angeles. Hey, Kevin. Welcome. New sustaining member. Awesome. Ashley. Hey, that was fun. Yeah, it was nice seeing you. That was quite a retreat, wasn't it? That was a trip. Jennifer. Hello. Jennifer Santos. Yeah. We met as well. Kogan. Puerto Rico. My friend Kogan also was at the retreat and was one of the facilitators, and we just had a blast. It was really something. Bob from Central Illinois. Gareth from Down Under. All right. Very cool. New York City, Frankie. All right. Dr. Heidi. Hello. Tamiko from Ireland. All right. Very cool. I'll say hi to more people in a bit. Let me just go back. There was a question up here. Having a physical heart issues, atrial fibrillation, it sounds like. Otherwise healthy at 47, seeing consultant and getting tests. If your health, could the stress and anxiety of this process cause this? I don't know. Stress, basically, let's just say catecholamines to be specific, in your bloodstream, it can certainly increase your heart rate. potentially could push you into atrial fibrillation if you're already like going in and out of it. Like if you have paroxysmal AFib, potentially, yeah. Is it the underlying cause? No, certainly not, right? It's just like exercising. If you exercise, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, some catecholamines are released. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry so much about that personally, especially if you're in good shape otherwise. Ego having a field day, right? It does that, right? This is going to kill you. I might die. I might go crazy. Yeah, these are kind of the go-tos for our overly active mind that likes to scare us. Let me scroll down here and find some questions or comments. Saskatchewan, Canada. Yeah, we already saw that. All right. Damien, from a welcome new sustaining member. Very cool. I think you are. I'm not sure what these big things mean. They look new to me. So when it's a big colored comment, I think that means if you're a new person at a certain level, you get to get that or something. But I'm not fully sure. You'd think I'd know more about the way YouTube membership works. I'm not 100% sure. I'd make sure you get your perks, but the way they bill it, the way they all this stuff, it's not completely clear to me. Some people ask, like about billing issues. I'm like, I wish I could help you, but you have to talk to YouTube. I have no idea how that goes down. Yeah. From Denmark. Very cool. Hey, Soren. Kina, hi there. Hey, Diego. Berlin. Hey, Tom. Marianne from Portland. Hey, Leah. Good to see you. Hey, Cherry. Met Cherry at Disneyland. Lubina, hello. Also at retreat. Okay, now I have to scroll back up. Find out where we're at here. Said, took 3 days to recover from travel plus crashing into the energetics, but so worth it. Yeah, the come down from retreat can be interesting in a sense, You come out and there's so much clarity and peace, and the mind is so calm comparatively, and then you're just like pushed right back into the normal world you're used to at the speed that's usually going, and the types of interactions you have with people that haven't gone on retreat for a week, and it can be like, whoa, really, it can be intense for a bit, to adjust. The date in May for Kentucky, you have to look it up. I think it's the 12th through the 16th, maybe, but do check it out. It's you can just Google it. It's Wild Health Summit. It's going to be a blast, actually. I'm really excited about it. Sandra from the Netherlands, hello. Happy you're here as well. Bernd, welcome to sustaining member. Louise from the Netherlands, another person. That's great. I met somebody from the Netherlands at the retreat. Hey, Rachel. Good to see you. All right. All right. Here we go. Oh, Denmark. Sounds so awesome, those retreats you're having. I wish I lived near. Alas, it's a bit away from Denmark. True. I understand. Totally. If you ever can go to an in-person retreat, if anyone that you like you resonate with, they're really powerful. There's something about it that's just different, For me, I feel like so completely interconnected with everyone in the room in a way. Like energetically, it's just obvious. So I find that the talks and guided meditations are much more synergistic with the whole process probably than online, although online is powerful as well. It's different in person because I'm literally in the same room with everybody the whole day pretty much, and I can feel what's going on and sort of see how people are moving and stuff. So, yeah. Hi, Yvonne. London, cool. Scottsdale, Arizona, right on. Costa Rica, right on. Risha from Portugal. First time, nice to be here. Josh, yeah, glad you're here. Snake Dog Man, welcome from the Netherlands. Another person, great. Austria, awesome. Hey, Baird. Cat Dreaming Roses from Northern California, perfect. From Ireland, hello. Denmark, Ottawa. Mark from Hawaii, very cool. Okay, here's a question from Mary Ann. Angelo, I've had some weird things happen since getting home. My right leg has been weak for the last 20 years. I have MS, but my MRIs cannot explain the loss of function. Since I got home, my leg is, I think you messaged me and it was better or like improved. I don't know why that happens. But we have so many energetic shifts in these things that I would never prescribe like awakening to cure a medical illness or anything. And I don't have this like idea. Medical illnesses are all because of, beliefs or stress or things like that. There are medical illnesses that are genetic, for sure. So, but there's no doubt that there's overlap, and there's also no doubt that energetic blockages and things like that do affect disease processes you already have. And unblocking things can loosen things up a lot of times, can change your symptoms, improve your symptoms sometimes, and make, especially things like chronic pain, can make them far more tolerable. Yeah. And it's, of course, somewhat mysterious, but energetically, I think you start to get a sense of it over time that opening these blockages, that it's not something you do intentionally either. It's not like you go in and try. It just happens. It's a sort of side effect of dissolving fixations. And that the other side of it is Kundalini for some people can be rather intense. So when there's no blockages left or very few blockages, the system is just wide open for it. Some people are a rather powerful conduit for energy, for Kundalini energy. And like I said at the retreat, you may think Kundalini is like not a real thing or something until it happens to you, and it's like very obvious. So and so a lot of Kundalini can move through, often with big shifts, deeper stage realization shifts, can move through for a while, and often it usually settles down. But some people just have a lot more of it, and that's kind of the other side of the coin. But yeah, Lady Sphenoid, yeah, it was so good to have you there, Shannon. It's good to see you, good to meet you, hug you, say hi in person. All right, Stephen Bodian retreat, cool. Hey, Rose from Waco, right on. Great retreat. Noticed hypervigilance in monitoring, managing thoughts, trauma stuff. Had to titrate time with meditation and sense fields since. Yeah. Shadow work, times 6 months, and core fears about safety coming up. Tips? You're doing it. Like, just do what you're doing. Like, yeah, that stuff's going to come up for sure. Hypervigilance is... it's like you can make friends with it in a sense. Like something about vigilance can be really helpful for becoming one-pointed or inquiry, that kind of vigilance. Later on though, like after an awakening and some deepening and so forth, it's not that it's your enemy, but, helping it soften a little bit through reassurance, through that more feminine aspect, maybe through a more surrendered aspect, can be helpful, because what it does is it creates a dualistic subject-object construct experientially in consciousness to be hypervigilant, right? It's to like almost exaggerate the sense of objectivity, of subject-object, and that's why I think the collapsing the subject-object illusion and non-duality, non-dual realization, and so forth can be challenging if there's a lot of emotional repression still going on, because you're kind of struggling with that. And that sense of dualistic, like hypervigilance, is actually keeping it at bay in a way. But it's not even quite right to say it's keeping it at bay, because there's nothing at bay. It's just keeping attention sort of rerouting into the mind consistently into that hypervigilant focus, let's say. So yeah, you can explore it directly. You can explore what the hypervigilance is, what it feels like to be hypervigilant. Explore it on all sides, like in consciousness. What does the subject feel like in hypervigilance? What does the object feel like? You can also explore this with thought. So for instance, like maybe you're just sitting there minding your own business and an intense thought comes up about a person or an exchange or a traumatic event or literally anything, but it feels charged, right? What you can notice is just like slow down and give it your attention, give it all the space it needs to process. And then just notice that there's the sort of storyline or the mental object. It could be a visual image. It's often a visual image and a movement in consciousness, like a narrative or something like that. And often that feels almost pushed outward, feels pushed forward, like to become an object. And you can just sort of remind yourself, okay, that's a construct, right? Almost like a ghost in a way. Because it's not really happening now, whatever it is, what we're remembering or traumatic event or something we're recalling. It's not actually happening now. All that's happening now is the experience of it as an object in thought. That's what's happening now. And once we notice that, it's like, oh, okay, it's a little easier. We don't have to try to mitigate something that's not happening right now because that's impossible. Rather, we can sort of explore what is happening, and it's an experience, right? It's an experience of an object of thought. If you're following this. So when you have the experience of an object of thought, whatever it is, a narrative, a memory, whatever, we can just recognize, okay, that's not actually pointing outside of itself. It's not pointing to something else. It's right here. We're in direct contact with it. So it feels a little more manageable. The second part, though, can be helpful is to actually go, okay, that's the object of experience right now. Let me just come back to the subject, which is me, right? Me, the vigilant one. Me, the one that has to do something with that, or it feels like it has to do something with that. The second part is easier to overlook. It's not too hard to notice what the narrative, the thoughts are and stuff around a certain fixation or a traumatic event or something that feels heavy, contracted. It's not hard to notice the narrative of that because it's kind of right there, right? It's out front. You're being vigilant to it. So you're pointing, your attention's pointed at it in a rigid way, sort of. But what often we don't notice is what's holding up that arrow of attention or that fixation that feels heavy toward an experience or an object or a memory is the arrow itself of the attention, what's coming back here. So back to the subject. And just notice the subject is also an experience in consciousness. Sometimes just noticing that sequentially, slow down, see what's happening, notice that it's not happening any other time but now, right? The memory seems to point to something else, but who knows? It's really just right now. It's an experience. And the experience is what's the phenomenon of the moment is the experience. And so now you can recognize, okay, that's the object of thought, and then back to the subject. What's the subject? Where is it? Or you can just remind yourself the subject is also a thought. The subject of me, the one that has to do something with that, is also an object of thought. And that often soothes things quite a bit. And just keep doing it. You can do that as many times as you need to until it will all feel very close. It won't feel so unmanageable or distant or something you need to be hyper vigilant to. You don't need to be hyper vigilant anymore once you realize it's already here. It's already here. You don't need to go out to it at all. You don't need to wait till conditions change to come in contact with anything. It's already here. And that can soothe everything. And it can kind of give you a sense of, I don't want to say control, but it helps with that feeling of being out of control. It helps to just feel like intimate, like present. It's okay. Things are okay. I have everything I need is here. Everything I need to work through what's here is also here. And I can also see accurately what's going on. And there's an object of thought, and there's also a subject of thought. And both of those are thoughts. And things can just really calm down that way. So that's my recommendation. Let me know how it goes if you try that out. Okay, let me find myself again in this stream. That's a good question, by the way. Okay, this is Bernd. I find myself kind of stuck. In the last months, I developed a reluctance concerning awakening stuff, and it is also personal. I project it onto my teachers. Any ideas how I can handle this? My favorite absolute question in the retreat was so funny. It was perfect. The guy came up on stage, super nice guy, actually, really nice guy. You could just tell right away. Very friendly and sort of sincere and direct. And he said, I have to be honest, like I have this reoccurring fear that like you and Adyashanti and Eckhart Tolle are faking it. And I couldn't stop laughing because I thought it's such a good way of talking about the way the mind works, right? It'll try to undermine the teachers, or it does whatever it can to, in a way, to take you off the hot seat, right? To say, oh, this isn't a real thing. This whole process is nonsense. And I remember doing the same thing many, many years ago. Like, you want to find you're looking for an out in a way, right? Whether it's questioning the teacher or questioning the teaching or questioning that realization is even a thing. I mean, doubt is pretty convincing, right? Until it's not. But for a while, it's rather convincing. And to the degree we really buy into thought, we really buy into our assessments of the world and our judgments of the world, a doubt is can really knock you over, right? It can feel so heavy and binding. So I totally get all that. I understand it for sure. And reluctance, as a form of doubt. So what is the answer? What can I offer you for this? What I told this person who asked the question is I said the beauty of this is it is beyond doubt. It's beyond doubt. It doesn't mean that it's so obvious in the intellectual landscape that I don't doubt it. It's just not even in that realm. It's not in the realm of doubt and belief. It's just not that kind of thing, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I would guide somebody to try to find that which is undoubtable because it'll be intellectual. Rather, just notice what it feels like to try to bind ourselves into belief and then be pushed around by doubt, like that whole back and forth that the mind puts you in, right? And you have to believe a thought to feel doubt in this moment. You have to believe a belief to feel certain in this moment. So there's a kind of certainty that's just beyond all that has nothing to do with beliefs and nothing to do with doubts. Doesn't mean that they don't arise. You could still have the thoughts floating around that say, I doubt this and I doubt that. But what happens often is all of a sudden it's just laughable because those are thoughts and you realize it doesn't matter what the thoughts say. Like I said in my book, a preposterous thought. Maybe your thought says, I'm the king of England. You won't believe that thought, but you'll believe the doubt thought, right? Why? Because it's familiar. I don't know why, but certain thoughts we believe in so readily that they feel not like I believe the thought that says I doubt, but it feels like I doubt. I actually doubt. So you're actually identified with doubt. It's such a trick. The ego plays such a trick here. It tells you are the doubt and you feel like I am doubt. That's why I was kind of like I laughed when I heard the question because it's so freeing to be not bound by that, or it's so freeing to see through that illusion that the mind puts up that says, my thoughts are your thoughts. My doubt is your doubt and you are the doubt, right? So the first thing I'll tell you is it's totally normal. It's normal to have doubt. It's normal to just mistrust teachers or whatever. The mind will do what it can to try to get out of this, right? And sometimes it does it when you start to feel actually you're getting traction. Not in the mind, you're getting traction in this process. Or maybe more accurately, the process is getting traction in you. You're starting to feel that pull. Adyashanti had a great thing he would say about this deal where it's like a celestial body. Like say you're in space or something and you notice a celestial body. And you're like, wow, you're in awe by the beauty and power and whatever, the vastness of that. And you want to get closer and you kind of move closer to it and closer. And all of a sudden you feel its gravitational pull and you notice it, but you're not too concerned. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I can't get out of the gravitational pull. It's really like that, right? It's like, fuck around, find out kind of thing with this, but it's okay. So yeah, you sometimes will feel this moment where it's like, oh, this is not only bigger than me, it's in control, in a way. There's something else running the show here. The spiritual process has taken on a life of its own, and it's not what I thought maybe sometimes and whatever. So all of that can happen, and again, it's okay. It's fine. It's totally fine. Some fear will come up sometimes. It might be like a more intellectual fear, like you want to distract yourself or you want to refute something to get yourself off the hook, or it might be more hot, like physical fear, like, whoa, oh my God, what is this? The first one often turns into the second one at some point, which is fine. It's just direct. Yeah. So to feel fear directly, as you're kind of deepening maybe, or digging in the right way or whatever, you kind of figure out how inquiry works and it opens up this vastness that's like, whoa, I don't know if I want to go there yet, right? Just your initial response sometimes. To feel that is okay. It's totally normal and it's okay. At some point though, it does become a more direct feeling of fear, and it's just because your body mind is identified with thought. So when you start breaking through the tethering of thought, when you start breaking the spell of thought, then the body will interpret that sometimes as fear or as a threat. But understand it usually is pretty short-lived. Now it might come back. It might like happen and then happen again and happen again. But usually it's kind of a hot, physiologic fear, and it lasts a few minutes. If you just sit it out, sit with it. Now, if you turn it into a long story and get entangled in it and all this, then it's different. Like there's like repression mixed into it and it can kind of drag out. But if you just say, you know what, I'm going to feel this, whatever, let me feel it. And the mind's going to go, I'm going to die. This is going to kill me. My heart's going to stop. I'm going to go crazy. Again, these are thoughts and they're okay. Maybe this is the wrong direction. Maybe the teacher fooled me. Just recognize those are doubts. Why not, you've come this far. Isn't it time to see what's beyond doubts? Like, isn't that what you came for? It's what I came for. And that's it, So give it some time. But when you start to really feel like more of a like, whoa, okay, I'm moving right into the unknown here, and it's hot, like the emotion of it, just go, this is okay. It's called fear. It's fine. Let me just feel it. And then I'm going to drop even the label fear, and then drop any thought that comes. They're just doubts, and just stay with your experience. Yeah. That's where this usually funnels into. Yeah. Good question. Okay. Would you say that thoughts, oh my gosh, sorry guys. What happens is this thing scrolls automatically sometimes. Okay. Would you say that thought and belief is distorting experience that is already completely intimate? Is distorting experience that is that why you guide us to our senses? Okay, I think what you're asking is thought and belief distorting an experience that is already completely intimate? You might also be asking, do I think thoughts and beliefs are a distorting experience that is already completely intimate? And both are kind of true in a different way. The first way, though, is if you're asking me, are thoughts and beliefs something that distort an experience that's already completely intimate? That's a yes and no, because the direct experience, which is so direct there's no experience, which is realization essentially, that can't actually be distorted. It's impossible. It's laughable. Kind of goes back to that question about doubt. Doubt claims so much more territory than it actually inhabits. This is undoubtable. It's also untaintable, really, right? I was going to say taint sooner or later. This is untarnishable, undeniable. It's so clear. So no, a thought can't actually distort it because this isn't distortable. Now, experientially, it can feel like that, but what's getting distorted is your sense of identity. It's the identity is the secret ingredient to cause suffering, in a way, in the way we're talking now. So the thoughts themselves also are not even distorting, really. It's the thought and the identity that seems intertwined with those thoughts, beliefs, and doubts, and so forth. That complex, the complex of the seeming identity, the will backing something here, and the buy-in to thoughts and beliefs, that has a distorting effect, but really only on itself, which is really strange. So it might be a distracting effect more than distorting. Because again, what's true is just here. It's here. It's always here, always been here, always has been here for you. You've never missed it. You don't need to get it from somewhere. You're not going to get it from me. You're not going to get it from anybody because it's not gettable because it's right there all the time. True, period, right? And yet, it's not obvious when we're very much in this loop of thought, of clinging, of aversion, of all of it. That's what we're trying to break the spell of. When we break the spell of that, then what is just reveals itself, quite simply. So, how do you do that? How do you break the spell? Well, there's different ways. One is through work directly in the senses. And you can do that anytime you want if it feels relevant to you. But if somebody's not really had a shift in identity, they really want to wake up, they haven't had a shift in identity, whatever, I usually more like strike while the iron's hot. Let's go right after your identity structure, like direct, and then after that, it becomes a little more obvious and intuitively obvious when to start doing work in the direct sense fields. Or sometimes it just comes over you. It just suddenly flips over. Something flips over and it's just non-dual. That can also happen. So, yeah. Okay, good question. Hey, Marianne. Continued is much stronger. My balance is so much better. Kind of freaked out by this change. Any ideas? Balance is better. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't, I mean, I wouldn't be freaked out about it. It's kind of serendipitous, right? It's great. But yeah, the thing is about this is you can't do anything with it. You can't plan on that. Like I can't tell you the next retreat you're going to be even better or anything. But I do think, especially anything that's a primary sort of dysfunction of the nervous system, like MS, for instance, certainly energetic changes can have more influence on that. Again, for anyone who wasn't listening before, I don't prescribe any of this for medical treatment or anything. This person's just asking about an effect that happened from retreat, where a part of the neurologic dysfunction or whatever she had has improved, which is great. It's cool, yeah. And again, neurologic system here. So if there's blockages and energetic blockages, like you may open something up, and it definitely improves things like frequently improves things like chronic pain over time. It takes time. Sometimes it gets a little worse in a way because you explore it in such a direct way, whereas maybe you've been avoiding it somewhat before. But when you go down and through, often it relieves a lot of it. Relieved a lot of chronic pain for me, for sure. So I'm happy for you. Ian, first time catching me live. Right on. I'm glad you did. Very cool. Diego, when I meditate, I certainly find that clarity space. Yeah. But I have to continuously look for it when not meditating. How can I stay there when not meditating? Well, really, I wouldn't try to stay there because that's like, it's kind of buying into continuity, and I don't want to guide you towards something that doesn't exist, really. Rather, do like what you said, like I have to continuously look for it. I would say when it comes to you, when the idea comes to you or the moment comes to you, then lead yourself back to it, however you do that. Sometimes people get it boiled down to like one inquiry question can just sort of lead me back. Whatever works for you, just do it, periodically. And I wouldn't make continuity or continuousness a goal necessarily, but I will say if you do it with enough curiosity and gentleness, returning yourself back to that again and again, it comes to this place where your practice or your intention along these lines sort of meets up with this naturalness with the clarity itself. And that's why I tell you don't push too hard. Don't force like continuity. And you might find where they meet so naturally that it actually feels natural and it starts to almost happen continuously. It's like you can't even tell, am I doing this or is it just doing itself? But it's kind of an element of both. It's a meeting. So you really got to approach this gently in that way, but I think you're in a good place. But don't have a mental paradigm of like, this has to be like this all the time, because nothing has to be like anything all the time. And that'll just drive you nuts, right? It'll cause strain. So yeah, great question. Common concern. Terry, I'd love to go to Kentucky retreat. What is the date in May? Hopefully someone looked it up. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think I said the 12th through the 16th, but I could be wrong. But you can go to wildhealthsummit.com or Google Wild Health Summit. It'll pop right up. You can see it. Faisal, my question. I am in a very strange place. So much head pressure, like something is hanging with a magnet. I go to the space of non-save every night in my nightly meditation, but then I wake up with it, I think. That's a common one, man. I had a lot of that early on, for sure. I think after awakening even, it was strong for me for a while. One thing is just relax your face muscles. Like that can be overlooked actually. So just drop your jaw, maybe meditate with your jaw more loose. Take your jaw, move it with your hand a little bit, massage these muscles, see where you think the tension actually is. What I noticed when it was happening with me is like the muscles would be tense and I could relax them intentionally, but the moment I wasn't thinking about it, they would get tense again. It was such a habituated response. So that can be helpful, just a little bit of relaxation, maybe a little body movement, and then anything that invites that energy to kind of move down through the body. You can do the golden butter thing, right? Where there's golden butter on top of your head, and you imagine this, but you can kind of feel it as you imagine, and you feel like this slow dripping gold liquid encompassing all of this, the energy in the head, the sensations, the tension, and moving down through the neck, the spine, and the back, even over the shoulders if you want, and down through your spine slowly, very, very slowly. And feel that energy moving through the body as you do. And it can be led to the ground. It can be led to ground, laying on the ground, sitting on the ground, hands on the ground. Any of that's very helpful. But take your time with it. And yeah, it's a common thing for sure. Ines, hello. So much rage. Yeah. 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 Rage is definitely a boundary emotion. Often people who had, their boundaries sort of blurred when they were younger or crossed or abused, all these things can have a lot of pent up rage, and the thing for rage, I like body movement. You can try like a somatic thing like TRE can be helpful if you haven't tried that. It's free to learn, and you can always, have someone help you dial it in once you've learned it. But TRE, try that. But also body movement, like intuitive movement. It may not be the kind of thing you would normally do, but if you're alone and no one's watching, why not try it? Try it on the floor, laying down, sitting up, moving around, standing. Just let your body move how it wants to. Even vocalize if you need to vocalize. That can help. That can be helpful with a lot of pent up, high energy emotion like rage. And people have talked about going onto overpasses over the road, the highways or interstates, and yelling, screaming, as the cars are coming because no one will hear you up there because it's so loud. Things like that. But find out how the body wants to, what the body wants to do with this is a good one for rage, I think. Hi, Kim. Hey, Adrian. I'd like to attend the winter retreat, but will be possible in GMT timeline as opposed to mountain time. GMT, I can't remember, Greenwich Mean Time. Oh, so I didn't announce this at the beginning. I don't know why I didn't announce it. I have an online retreat, of course, coming up at the end of December. It's the typical 5-day one I do. So you can find that on my website. And you can do it in Europe, and you can do it in Australia or Asia. And on the main document, once you pay basically, but you'll get this main document. It has all the links, it has all the times, and it has links to European adjusted schedule and one for Australia. The European adjusted may be Central European time, so it may be 1 hour off for you, but you can certainly use the same exact thing. And so it has the same live portions. It has the live portions that will be in the daytime hours for you, and then the recorded portions will be available for you as well. And I put a schedule there that looks pretty much like the schedule we're doing in the States. So yeah, there's an adjusted schedule for you there, and you're more than welcome. Okay, Damien. Sometimes on a daily basis, there are moments where there is nasty, nearly zero space left, and it feels like beyond emptiness and fullness. Yeah. Yet there is still a sense of a gap, and it's a pain to let go of. Yeah, that's great though. You can't really necessarily let go of the gap per se, because the perception of a gap is an afterthought in a way. It's a post-processing. Not that it's not true, like you're perceiving something that's phenomenologically occurring, I guess, but the interpretation of a gap and stuff, that'll be hard to address it at that level. What I would actually do is when you're experiencing that, or when you're not experiencing it, just move your attention into the senses, like one at a time, right? So in feeling, is pure feeling, right? Or just what's felt, just the sensations. However, it doesn't matter what you invoke, how you say that, and you don't have to say it for very long, but to remind yourself, just attention in the body sensations, full on, yeah? Then move your attention to sound, the sound field. Then move your attention to the visual experience, colors and shapes and movement and shades and all. Yeah? And then back to sound, back to sensation. However you want to do this, and however long you want to do it. You can do it quickly or slowly. It doesn't matter. And you'll notice a difference in your quality of experience because, and also notice when attention goes into the mind space, into cognition, and that's just cognition, just thoughts, just feeling, just thoughts, sensation. And something reorders itself by doing this. I don't really know how to explain it. It's totally experiential. You have to do it, but try it, see how that goes. And don't struggle with it. Don't strain it too much because you'll kind of tire yourself out and get frustrated. And give yourself some time to let attention be in consciousness and in cognition, because otherwise that'll turn into strain, right? If your attention's not used to being in the senses consistently. So be patient with this. Ooh la la. Did I want to talk about On-Riding Retreat the last week of this month? Oh yeah. There you go. I was reminded after I remembered. Yeah, so sign up for that if you want to go, and it's going to be a blast. And we do have sound synergy. Good times, as always. Ryan, if one wakes up while doing self-inquiry, is it possible to do so without the energetic events before or during? Anything's possible. This happens all different ways. Can one just drift into awakening peacefully with no energetic intensity? So, I guess I wonder where the question comes from, right? Like, first of all, I don't know where you're asking it from, but I'll just put a few things out there. One is, if you're asking a question like that, like you're going to plan it, don't worry about that. You're not going to plan this. It's impossible. You'll never know how it's going to be for you, right? So if a question like that, if it's coming from like, is there a method I can use to make it go this way? Too much control. You got to surrender more than control, right? So if you're just curious about it, yeah, it can happen like a slow, peaceful shift for sure. Happens all different ways for people. But energetic intensity and emotional stuff and thought storms and all that, they're going to come sooner or later. Like, they come before awakening, they come after awakening, they come kind of during as you're approaching awakening. So yeah, all these types of experiences we talk about, they can happen and do happen to pretty much everybody to some degree. So yeah, can't plan it, but there are various, very different types of awakenings experientially. Some of them are really, some of them are just not practice based. The person is interested in this whole thing. It's more like surrender based. They just expose themselves to this type of environment, and it just something shifts. Other people, it seems very intentional. They have to work through and do the practice. Strangely, they have to do the practice just to burn out their belief that the practice is going to force the hand of reality, and you sort of fall into it or fall back into it, or it just hits you from behind or something. But again, all of these ways I'm talking about it are all post processing. When you're actually in that experience, it's such a singular experience that there's no standing back from it going, oh, is it going to be this way or that way? Is there going to be this or that? If that's happening, it's okay. Those are thoughts though. Like, get beyond that, and the way you get beyond that is just recognize, that's just another thought, another concept, belief, doubt. It's okay. Back to this. Yeah. Okay. Snake Dog Mom. First time live for me 3 to 4 months ago. Cool. Oh, welcome. Glad you're here. Creative Wings Studio. Hey, Debbie from Albuquerque. I wonder what Creative Wings means. If that's kites, airplanes, chicken wings. Hard to know. Ashley, I'm so thankful I was able to take a week of holidays after this retreat. It is nice. If you can take some days off after retreat, it's very nice. You don't have to, but it's such a big thing to go through, and then to be able to integrate it a little bit after is nice. But at least a couple days if you can. Some people had to hit the ground running and go right back to work, or some of us got sick. Ooh la la. It is, the announcement is for this year. Hi, I'm going to say Bjarki. Hopefully I said that right. From Denmark. Hello. Badillion. I love that name. Bev from Grand Rapids. Enjoyed the retreat. It was powerful, yeah. Man, it was something else. Terry, retreat dates in Kentucky. Oh, yeah, there we go. May 12th through 18th. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I think it's 16th, but because it's weekdays. Joanna. Hello. Can we have 2 minutes of silence today? Sure we can. 2 minutes of silence. Okay, let's do it. Except I lose track of time very easily when I go silent. And I just lost my track of where I am on this thing. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit lost in my stream here. Sometimes it jumps way down. We're doing the 2 minutes of silence. Okay, here it is. 2 minutes of silence. Go. Okay, I don't know if that was 2 minutes, but maybe close. Priscilla, welcome to supporter. Thank you for supporting. All right. Soren, being at retreats are awesome. I was at the one with Lisa Carnes, and it was intense. She's awesome. She is. Lisa's great. I recommend anyone go to her retreats. She does the European retreats. Hey, Ryan. Oh, okay. Catch you next year. Hi, Eva. Struggling with thoughts again. Yeah. Yeah. The key with thoughts is don't struggle with them. But also the key to thoughts is seeing that, like, even the belief that I need to do something about them at all, or that they're a problem at all, it's kind of a belief more than a thought. That's also a thought. So, like, what if you don't have to struggle with thoughts? You don't have to stop struggling with thoughts. You don't have to notice thoughts. You don't have to ignore thoughts. Like, if you just take a completely neutral stance with thoughts, and also realize everything is a thought. Everything we think we know from the past, everything we think we understand about ourselves in the future, and spirituality and problems and our problems, all of it is just thoughts. Thoughts. It's such a relief to see that. Yeah. Labels, thoughts. Interpretations are thoughts. Judgments are thoughts. Self-doubt is a thought. Second-guessing ourselves is a thought. Believing we have to figure something out is a thought. Believing we have to find the solution or the right practice is a thought. What is life like without all those thoughts? What is this moment like without all of those thoughts? So peaceful, so neutral, simple. Even those are labels, but it's just so clear. And there's nowhere to go. You don't have to go out to anything. You don't have to go out to an experience of any kind. You don't need to find anything that's lost. You don't need to correct anything about yourself or anyone else or the world. Okay. Ines, the intuition to set some boundaries when with others, sensing heavily charged energy environment is avoidance created by mind, or can be healthy intuition for natural boundaries to be set. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if, this is where it's like everything that we construct in the mind really is a thought, especially if it's not happening right in this moment. Like if you're not even in a room with somebody, but you're thinking about them a lot, or you're having interactions with them in your mind and so forth. But in real time, if something feels off, uncomfortable, or just violating your boundaries or whatever, you have every right to just speak up. Speak up. Or do something about it. Like, leave. Leave the situation if it's just ongoing and there's nothing redeeming about the situation or whatever. Sometimes it's just a matter of not interacting with somebody who doesn't respect your boundaries. Sedona method. I'm not really familiar with it. I've heard of it many times, but I don't honestly know about it. If it works, great. I would never tell someone something does or doesn't work all the time, because anything can work. Some really strange questions have led people to major shifts. It's really what works for you, whether it works for you, whether it's meaningful to you, whether it feels deeply resonant, and whether it moves you beyond thought in some way, or helps you uncover hidden beliefs. I think maybe Sedona does a little bit more of that. I'm not really sure. I don't honestly know much about it, but so yeah, give it a shot. Give it a good try. See what it does. I don't think it'll hurt you. Marianne, I totally did not ask for this or expect this at all. Yeah, it happens. Sometimes it comes like totally out of the blue and you don't even know, what in the heck this is, and don't have any context for what's happening. That can be confusing for sure. Mm-hmm. But once you settle into it and stop resisting it, it's great. Lady Sphenoid. Oh, hello, Kundalini. Neon Retreat. Yeah. Right? No joke. Debbie Miller. It was so powerful. I saw that with the arising and falling away, that I too am doing that now every moment. Isn't that fun to see? This was so clear. There was more grief as experienced before. Wonder if this is a block. It often happens when you achieve some sort of insight, some clarity. Achieve isn't the right word, but when it dawns, however that happens, right? When there's more clarity, more insight into direct experience, it just opens up more space. When there's more space, repressed material is going to come up. Generally speaking, that's what I find to be the case. And that's okay. You're going to feel things more directly, more intensely, without labels, right? It doesn't seem like by labeling things, by putting a narrative to our feelings and things like that, it doesn't seem like that's an avoidant mechanism. And it isn't always really, but it does create some distance. And when we suddenly aren't doing that for whatever reason, we're not labeling, we're not turning anything into a narrative. When we feel an emotion, it's often much more intense. And then what we realize through experience is we have more capacity than we realized for it. All right. Gloria. Heard there were a lot of awakenings. There were a lot of awakenings. That's true. Jennifer. The Zero Distance Observatory by Thomas was such an awesome addition. Wasn't that fun? So many people were just blown away. A lot of people were. I can't express my gratitude enough. Oh, good. Yeah. He's so happy to hear that. And he works so hard at it. And it's a big thing to put together, like two big things. It's like a lot of work to get it together, to get it across the country. I mean, it took them years to develop these things, but they work, you know, they give people some really good glimpses of that. So, and people were having shifts with it too. So really fun. One of your favorite activities all week. I love it. It had me laughing so hard. Yeah, me too. I was laughing at it. It was fun. Yeah, it was really fun. Okay. Johan, welcome to supporter. Janelle, during the retreat, I only heard possibly 1/4 of what I said. So never heard a sentence. However, I'm perfectly satisfied with the retreat. It was wonderful and deepening. I hope you didn't not hear me because you couldn't hear me, more because you were just gone. We tried to make the sound good for everybody, but we have good sound engineers and all that stuff there. So it's the place is set up for big groups. DVD Mun. I was bummed I didn't get a chance to do the observatory. Sorry. I know. Yeah. I wish I could do it for everyone, but it really does take some time for sure. One World Within. That's a cool name. Hi, I am noticing that I'm becoming more skeptical than ever before. After awakening taste last year, I was very open-minded, but have fallen back into disbelief, doubt, and fear. I feel like I'm almost talking myself out of meditation inquiry, even working anymore. And it's led me to a stopping point where I'm back to where I was when I was started, depressed, alone, hopeless, any ideas. I hate to say this, but sometimes you have to just go back and really taste that depression and that freaking unsatisfactoriness of the usual way of being. I mean, I'm not being harsh. I really mean it. Like sometimes you actually have to go back and taste that and go, oh yeah, that's what compelled me to push through this barrier. It's a big barrier you're pushing through. And it happens. That happened to me for sure. I tasted it, backed off, got distracted, did my stuff, tried to live that really uncomfortable way some more, came back, got a deeper taste, you know. So, it's okay. It happens. Totally happens. There's something that's afraid of opening to something bigger than you. Maybe is a simple way of saying this. There's something that's afraid to do that. And it makes sense why it's afraid to do that. At the same time, that thing that's trying to hold back is also making itself miserable, you know, and you just got to see that clearer and clearer. It's like the pain of not, how you say it, like the pain of not doing something pretty radical, going off the map not energetically first, but I'm going to say going off the map in consciousness is a pretty radical thing to do. It's a pretty radical move in a way. But when the pain of not doing something starts to outweigh the risk or fear of doing something radical, then all of a sudden the equation gets very simple. It did for me. So that's my answer. And I feel for you. I understand. But also be patient. There's a timing to this that's just completely beyond our lifespan. Don't worry, you know, about that. But do everything with your eyes open. See what's really going on. See what you're really feeling. See who's really cooking the books here. What those thoughts are doing to you, including labels. Depression is a label, right? Self-judgment. I'm not wanting to do this. I'm not wanting to do that. A lot of that time that comes with self-judgment. Maybe you're not doing any of that. Maybe you're not doing anything and you're not doing anything. Yeah? Open to something bigger than you. Find it. Find the juice that gets you to do that. Yeah? Excuse me. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, I guess I want to say this in a more broad way, that you probably now more and more you're seeing like people who are having awakenings and deep awakenings, maybe that I interview and other teachers, and it can probably look like these are people who this always went easy for or something, like it always went well for them and they never had doubt or something. Not like that. I've been to the pits of despair, very deep despair. That's what fueled this. So as bad as it feels and as frustrating as it is, despair is the match that lights enlightenment. That's what it is. It's suffering is your best friend, but it's not the best friend to the seeming separate self that wants to be in control in this way that it's not. To that, it feels very uncomfortable, very, very uncomfortable, but it's also sort of magic. So trust something beyond you. It's my best answer for the moment. And be patient. Okay. Hello from Dallas. Hey, Jonah. Final chance. Inquiry into self. Looking for what still feels like me in the field of sensation. Well, there's a really, I haven't even read your whole question, but there's a really good inquiry there. Can you find a sense of self in sensation? If you mean physical sensation. I would just urge you to go look for that. Be as precise as you can in your experience. Am I deriving the sense of self from that experience, or is the sense of self emanating from it or arising from it? Or is something else happening? I would really look into that. That's a really good way to look. Contraction in the middle of my chest stood out. There seems to be perceived from head area. Yeah, right. That's the dualistic mechanism of perception. That there's something here in the chest that's contracted, but also seems like there's something looking down on it or perceiving it from a space, even a vast space, even an aware space. Yeah, that's the dualistic feeling, the dualistic experience. It's non-conceptual. It's pre-conceptual. But again, go right to the sensation. Go right to the sensation. Does the sensation say anything about contraction, location, view, et cetera, et cetera? You're in a good place to explore. But can sensations perceive anything? Great questions. But go look. Don't listen to me. I don't want to give you a conceptual answer. Ryan, I recently said that experience isn't the only game in town. What does that mean? If reality is non-dual, how can anything be other than experience and thus apart from it? Okay, well, the last part I can answer easily. If reality is non-dual, let's say there's something called reality, and let's say it's non-dual, which is reasonably good thing to say, I suppose, here. In comparison to what we usually experience, absolutely, reality is non-dual, non-dualistic. So then the question is, how could there be anything other than experience? If there's non-duality, if reality is non-dual, if things are non-dual, how is there experience? Experience by definition is saying there's an experiencer and there's something to experience. And it may just sound like I'm splitting hairs with words, but I'm not. It's a very obvious thing when you realize what's not experiential. Yeah. You get your question's great. Look into it, experientially. Look into it, your immediate, in the immediate right here. Look into it. Okay. Ashley. Oh, you're talking to someone else here. Barbara, welcome to Supporter. Hi, Barbara. Ian. Hi, Angelo. I've seen almost all of your videos. Sorry, I'm going to look over here real quick. Okay. I just realized this. I made this public. So it's not just the sustaining members. So usually, if anyone's watching, I usually do this for sustaining members and above. But I must have flipped the wrong switch, which is fine. So this says, I've seen almost all of your videos, and my inner experience has completely transformed. Awesome. I still feel like I'm missing something. Like I'm looking through a lens of interpretation. Yeah. Yep. Look into that. And the way you're going to have to look into that is something to do with the senses. And I would even say in the visual sense for you, based on what you wrote here. Look into the visual experience, right? We can do it right now, but you should take this away and go do it on your own because it's a very subtle exploration, but an important one, right? So if there's a veil, then there's something on one side of the veil called a perceiver. We'll call it a perceiver. And there's something on the other side of the veil called the perceived. And maybe we could even say the veil if it's there at all, would be something like perception, like the mechanism of perception or the faculty of perception. So the real question is it there at all? Is there perception at all? What we're going to do is we're going to go right to the visual field, right to your visual experience now. Okay? And just ask yourself, what is this like when there's no object of perception? What is this like when there's no object? There's no out there. Now, keeping your attention right how it is, just how it is, we're going to also ask, what is this like if there's no subject or perceiver? What is this like if there's no subject or perceiver? Or there's no one back here? Nothing back here as a perceiving faculty. Now, what is this like? And just stay with it. Stay with the visual experience without analyzing. When I say what's it like, by the way, what is this like? I don't mean to conclude anything. I mean to let it carry you deeper into the experience, or carry the experience deeper into itself, or whatever. It's totally right in the immediacy, though, not in thoughts. And you can even ask, is this an experience? Is there a split between a perceiver and the perceived? Is there an object out there and a subject back here? If so, where's the evidence for that? And you can do this as a meditative practice if you want. Just sit there, open your eyes, and ask yourself these questions and stay with it for like a while. That's it. Okay. Andres. The truth shall set you free. Yeah. Can look like this. Paying attention to how I subtly push or pull my experience in meditation or in everyday experience. Just seeing it is the opening. Would I agree? Yes. Yeah. 95% of all this is just clear seeing. Maybe 100%. Didn't know you had a memory thing. Oh, yeah. I do have memberships on the channel. The memberships are really in support of Simply Always Awake, right? They allow me to do all the things I want to do, like host retreats, have contests, have giveaways, donate money. The donation is actually all of the proceeds from every month that are the ad revenue that YouTube automatically puts on the videos. All of that is donated. And then the membership, it helps me buy equipment, like my new camera, helps me rent a retreat center out, for instance, helps me buy a lot of really cool art to give away in the poetry contest. So that's what the memberships do. And there's levels of membership and there's perks, right? So you're really donating money to the company and to support what I do here, support what this company does. And there are platforms I have to pay for every month, and I have a virtual assistant. And so there's things there's costs to this, obviously, although I do much of it myself. Paying an editor. Now I'm making a documentary, and that's kind of costly. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, all of the donations from all of the membership levels go to that. And there's multiple levels. And there are sort of perks, basically, right? So the sustaining member level is what you get for that is twice a month I do one of these. I usually just do this for the sustaining members, and then I turn it to the public. And then I do a double barrel non-duality, which is over Zoom, and it's interactive. And I always have another person there answering questions or helping answer questions with me. So we tag team it. Those are both available to sustaining members. The next level above that is Patron Circle, and that's if anyone wants to have all of my retreat recordings from every retreat I've ever recorded, which is a lot. There's a lot there, and the Q&As are awesome. The Q&As are like gold, really. And then there's a ton of guided meditations if you like those as well. So that's Patron Circle, and there's like some other perks, you can read. And then the founders are like the highest level, and it's a smaller group, of course, but I have it there for people who want to support this, and And I do founders meetings and stuff. So, and there are other things, but that's the memberships for the channel. And I don't expect anyone to do it, but if you like what I'm doing and understand that nothing of this magnitude is for free, and I personally don't pay myself from it at all now. In the future, maybe I will. I don't know, but right now I don't need to. So yeah, it all goes right back into the channel, or to making a documentary, or buying equipment for the channel, to giveaways, all kinds of stuff. Hi, Danielle. Glad you're here. Jennifer. That was one of my favorite questions too, because I was feeling it 100%. That question about faking at the retreat was one of the best and funniest questions during the whole thing. I've had those thoughts myself too until it happened, right? Exactly. And then it's just obvious, right? It's more real than real. It's undeniable. It's beyond doubt. That's kind of really almost the definition of it in a way. Experientially, it's just beyond doubt. And so, okay, Jurg, what is it that makes me feel more like myself and less like myself throughout my life? I cannot attribute it to authenticity or anything else. I agree. It's not something you're doing, and you're not a guilty party at all. I think it has to do with, it's conditions based, but it has to do with these layers of false identity we have in place, or we could call them perceptual filters, or we could call them veils that make the world and experience seem divided up into separate subjects and objects, and me and everything else besides me. And I have to be the center of everything, and I have to maintain my, ego boundaries, all of it. Totally not necessary, but it has that feel of being a little more disassociated and a little less disassociated, but always disassociated, right? Good question. Mike. I had recognition. All's illuminated by light of awareness. Yeah. Feeling of home. Cried and thought, I can trust this. Wasn't as earth-shattering as expected, but still feel like me, Mike, is that first shift. Definitely sounds like it, especially if it's ongoing. And especially if you can drop the any of these words like awareness and like light of anything. Like, yeah, those pointers may sort of describe your experience, but is it a pure experience in the sense that it's just obvious? It doesn't need any definitions. It doesn't need me to confirm it. People do sometimes ask, but could I talk you out of the fact that something shifted? Could I tell you that this isn't real and you would doubt it? Probably not, right? So I can't answer that because I can't talk to you directly right now, but that's what I suspect. It sounds rather authentic. Also, if it's ongoing, like in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it's the same. It's obvious. Now, you may also notice the bliss or euphoria that can come with it may not be there in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, but the insight is clear and it's undoubtable. That's really what I would look for. And if it's the case, well, obvious. It's awesome, right? It's obvious and awesome. Just stay with it. Don't conceptualize it. Don't turn it into a concept called awareness or anything else. Just stay with it. It'll deepen itself. Yeah, I like this. DVD Mon. I sometimes have the same thought, not necessarily that I'm faking it, but that the whole thing can't even be real. It's just too weird, especially since it's very science-y oriented. Since you're science-oriented, I totally understand. I'm also science-oriented. Like, I'm an analytical person, and I always love science. So maybe that helped me because I didn't have a spiritual path, really. I didn't have spiritual friends. I didn't have spiritual communities. I just knew I was suffering, and I would have not settled for anything that someone else described. No way. Yeah, it was 100% empirical. So in one way of speaking, I think if you really take the empiricism, what empiricism actually means, to its extreme conclusion, this is totally empirical. You have to find it directly. You can't believe it. You can't believe an awakening into being, of course, and if you believe it, it's not an awakening. I should say beliefs aren't awakening. But it's definitely an empirical investigation. You're really looking to see what's actually happening, not what your mind's been telling you is happening. That's the beauty of it. It's rather empirical. Danielle, if someone is exploring psychedelics on this path, what guidance would you offer? Don't get too overzealous with them, meaning don't overemphasize them. The reason I say this is because I've seen it happen. I've seen people get a little weird with it, just doing it too much for too many years. And they become, it's like you identify as a psychonaut or something. And there can be a weird sort of ego that kind of develops itself in that, even though you have a lot of clarity and you have experiential bandwidth beyond what most people know from all the psychedelics, right? You could still get some sort of magical thinking and mistake what realization actually is. It's also certainly enticing to someone who's really oriented to experiences, to extreme experiences, because realization is not about an extreme experience. So I wouldn't discourage someone from trying it if they resonate with it, they understand the risks, and they don't have a history maybe of psychosis or something like that. Any of those, I would, if you don't know the risks and you don't resonate with it, you're doing it for the wrong reason, or you have a history of maybe psychosis, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But if you're already going to do it, it's fine. Do it find a good facilitator. Do it in a safe environment. And I think it's most valuable for emotion work, honestly. Yeah. Mallory, I can't think of a question to save my life. I love it. You don't have to ask a question. I just like hearing from you. Andrew, welcome. Welcome to Supporter, Andrew. Thank you for your support. Sean, I have had a shift a month ago. I felt I had a shift a month ago. It was easier to focus on my thoughts, but recently I've lost that focus and have more stress. Is this part of the process? Are these barriers you have come up against? I don't know. I reading this, I'm like, was it a real shift? I don't know. Maybe it was. There's always a chance it was more like a pre-taste, but there can be doubt after the shift, but there's never a doubt about what's obviously here all the time, always. Like, and that's really easy for me to discern usually with people when I talk to them afterward. If they're like, did I have a shift? Did I not? And I say, okay, well, there's something here right now that's undeniable. It's just here. And then they're like, oh yeah, of course. Yep. Has that changed? No. Could it change? Nope. They know that. Is a thought a doubt? Is a doubt a thought? Yes. It's obvious. That's not usually obvious. That's not obvious to someone before awakening. It's not like that. So yeah, that's kind of how I usually approach it. If I'm just casually talking to someone about it, but usually by interacting with them for a little while, it's just obvious, so, but can like change in focus come up? Can more thoughts come back? Can emotions come and all that? Yeah, of course, that definitely happens. But the insight is what matters, as always. Adrian, I enjoy your app, my app, and I enjoy using them to meditate along with the Waking Up app. Would I ever consider adding more meditations to it? I would consider it, but I don't know if it'll happen. Maybe. I love doing them. My challenge is like time management right now. I'm fine with it. I'm fine managing time, but I don't have a lot of extra time. So I don't have any extra time usually. So it's like, what project am I doing? So right now my project is working on the documentary, although my part of it's going to be kind of over soon and the editor's going to get to work big time on it. So yeah, I make daily videos, but I still have some other time to work on other things. So it's possible. It's possible. I haven't thought about it in a while. Zerkton, thank you for being a supporter. Bobby, looking forward to the retreat in Sydney. Woo! It's going to be fun. Never been to Sydney. Never been to Australia. It'll be good for sure. And it's nice. It's small. I mean, it can be up to 50 people, I think, is the max, but that's still pretty small for having 2 facilitators, multimodalities. It'll be good. It'll be such a good retreat. Andrew says, I find the shocks of certain pointers are really good. Do you see the value in the shock value? Sometimes I do that. Because when I return to the same pointer, it doesn't affect me. I miss that. Love the shock. Okay. There's a thing about this that's interesting. It is valuable, actually. I think it is shock. The real disruptive comment, or in Zen, a shout or a hit with a stick or something, Zochin has their own version of it. They yell something at a certain point. Those are all valuable. The thing though is, they only come when they come. Like I can't plan that. There's nothing I do that's planned at all. So and also to institutionalize those things can probably become counterproductive or lose the juice of spontaneity. So like hitting people with a stick constantly in Zen, I don't know. I think that's kind of starting to fall by the wayside. Certainly in the U.S. and maybe even in Japan to some degree. It's like, is it valuable sometimes? Can it really light you up? Can it cross you over? Sure, anything, that can happen. But when you start to institutionalize something, then you make it you put it into I don't know, almost like a schedule, right? But reality doesn't move on schedules. Like what I say is not scheduled. I can't schedule anything that way. I can't plan what I'm going to talk about very well in these types of talks. I can start with a subject and riff on it and then just go wherever it goes. But this is so instinctual. This speaking is instinctual, all of this, right? So the shock thing can be helpful, but it's not the only thing that's helpful. Sometimes just very simple, deliberate exploration of somebody's fixation patterns or belief patterns or emotion patterns, just all of a sudden the bottom drops out. Very simple. So it happens all different ways. It's fun when that happens, when it comes up that way, and I can feel it sometimes when someone's really ready to be pushed. But I don't push people until they're ready. I really am careful about that. Okay, good question. It's a question I haven't had before, I don't think. If someone can ask me a question here I've never had before that's an authentic question, I will be impressed. I can't give you a reward or anything through this, but I would if I could. All right. Zerkton, I'm all in. Finally a supporter. Can you go off the cliff for me? Tell me how it went. Can you go off the cliff for me and tell me how it went? Well, I went off a cliff 25 years ago. That's for sure. Wait a minute. 25 years ago. 24? 20, it was 1997. Maybe it's 24 years. I can't tell you how it went. I can just tell you that you can go there for sure. I can tell you will not know what's going to come at all. And I can tell you it will be a very pleasant surprise. And I can tell you that it may push you through a sort of intense fear before you go through. And lastly, I can tell you already know how to do this. You already know how to do this. Your mind won't believe that, but don't worry about your mind. It's not about your mind. All right. Kevin, I have a fear of public speaking, being seen, etc. I'm aware of emotion and belief related to this, trying to drop resistance. Is this why improv can be helpful? I think so. Improv would scare me for sure. Just go do it. Don't think about it. Go do it. Sign up. Bring a friend. Bring an accountability partner that wants to learn it too. Just go to a drop-in class. They're cheap usually. Try it. It's fun. Do it online. There's like improv online groups, online circling groups if you want to do that. There's so many ways to ease yourself into that. And just know a couple things about public speaking. One, everybody has the fear of it. Two, yours isn't special, although it may be more intense or something, or it may be more limiting, but it's still a fear, and everybody has it until they don't. That's number one. Number two, practice does help with it, like just putting yourself in whatever situation. So find something you're passionate about and you really want to do and learn that does make you public speak. So maybe it's literally a public speaking class or something, or maybe it's improv, or maybe it's acting classes, which are a totally different kind of thing, but they're also valuable, right? It shows you aspects of your personality and your persona that you may not notice, or your emotions and things like that. Do some circling. So yeah, the number one is it's normal for everyone to feel self-conscious in front of people, to have social anxiety. Number two, you can certainly work through it, but you have to put yourself in that position. And number three, it takes time. You can do it for a long time before you actually stop feeling nervous about it at all. But that's possible, I think. Well, it did for me. I don't get nervous when I'm going to speak in public. I don't think I do. Yeah, it's enjoyable. But improv is just fun just to do anyway. Hey, Ryan. You've heard both me and Violet say that it's valuable to name what you're feeling. It can be, especially if you're not used to it. Like, so if you were like I was when I was younger and had such repressed emotions, I didn't even know what I was feeling. I didn't know that I was feeling most of the time. It can be helpful to go, okay, what am I feeling? And sometimes you don't know. Even by asking, you're like, I feel something, but it feels blocked or heavy or stuck. Just look at the situation you're in, right? That may help. Maybe you're feeling jealous. Maybe you're feeling competitive. Maybe you're feeling scared. Maybe you're feeling resentful towards someone. Look at the narratives of the mind, and sometimes that gives you a clue. So it really depends where you are on that emotion spectrum, as I talk about in my book, as far as how I'm going to guide you to work through emotion. But if you're just not even sure what the heck you're feeling, then it can be helpful to label them. There's lists of emotions you can find on, just Google it, emotion list. And there's these nuances. And that can be helpful to like articulate, oh, okay, it's a little bit like jealousy, but it's also a little bit like something else, whatever, so it can be helpful. All right. Nis. The commentator in my head continues at times. It's faint and in the background, but it wants to explain everything. Any insight is appreciated. Well, I would say don't make a problem of it, but it doesn't sound like you are making a problem of it. Sounds like it's calmed, which is great. I wouldn't worry about it. Just work on insight, however you do that, whether it's just surrender, meditation, inquiry, watching these kinds of talks, interacting with a teacher or a facilitator. Whatever you do, just keep doing it. Start to focus maybe more on non-dual, on the sense fields. And it generally just gets quieter over time, quieter and quieter. Louise, unfortunately, I already have to leave again. Oh, short and sweet. Have a good time. Thank you for coming. Mike, taint. Yeah, got it. It's got to be said. Ryan, he commented someone else there. Snake Dog Mom, hail the taint. There we go. No chat without taint. Lisette. Hi, Angelo. Just came back. It was nice to see you too. From Charlottesville, Virginia. Oh, yeah, Virginia. Okay. Attended an epic Christmas concert last night. It was candy for the senses. I'll bet it was. Yeah. Perfect. Candy for the senses. What is your candy for your senses? Untaintable, pure presence. Aaron, thank you for being a supporter. Paul, sorry to ask this so late. Not able to join earlier. You often talk about disassociation, but not, I think, in the clinical sense, in some mild or more normal way. What are the signs of disassociation in... I'll find the rest of your question in a minute, maybe. Anyway, okay. What are the signs of disassociation? So let's see. I talk about it not in a clinical sense. So in a clinical sense, there are dissociative disorders, like dissociative identity disorder, for instance, where it's like what used to be called multiple personality disorder, where the psyche gets almost fragmented, or does get fragmented, till there's aspects of your personality that come online that are rather different from other aspects, and they may not even be aware of each other. That's a dissociative disorder. There's also depersonalization and derealization, which are dissociative disorders. When I talk about dissociation, what I'm talking about definitely can lead to those. It can be a part of those. It is a part of those. But what I'm talking about is not a mild version of it. It's just ubiquitous. So mind identification is a dissociated state. It's a stable dissociated state, period. And it's a spell we're all under until we're not, until we break the spell. And what we're talking about here is breaking the spell. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. And the weird thing about disassociation is you can't really know how much you're disassociating until the shifts occur. Every time a shift occurs, you're like, oh my God, it's so much clearer than it was before. How is it possible that things are even more intimate than they were before? But that happens, right? Even after previous shifts, it's like, whoa, it's even clearer and closer and simpler and more non-dual. That's the reversal of the disassociated state. I won't over talk that because that's the simple answer. So how do you know you're dissociating? You're always dissociating until deep realization, really, to some degree. Thoughts about people's capacity for violence post late stage realization. Do you think someone will inevitably become completely opposed to violence at some stage, or would it just be based on true nature of the individual? I think it's very difficult for someone to be, it really depends what you mean by violent. Like, could you hunt or something after awakening? Probably could, you know. You're going to feel it very differently for sure. Overt violence, unnecessary violence, violent behaviors will slow down and stop as realization deepens because you see what you're doing now. You see what you're doing. You see the effect of how you talk to people, treat people, and how you treat yourself. And you see it. You can't not see it. You start to see things from all sides. So to harm another person is to harm yourself, and you feel it very directly. And it corrects itself ultimately. It's interesting when you asked, like, you know, about world violence, people's capacity for violence and all that. You also understand, or at least I do, I've noticed that I have a very deep understanding of violence in others, meaning like really overt violence, institutional violence, mass scale violence, or personal violence, murder, and so forth. I totally understand it. I understand its mechanism, and it's through delusion, totally through delusion. So you do go through phases with that where there's like the compassionate phase where it's like you feel so much compassion for people who are harmed by others and in terrible situations in other countries and all of these things that go on. It is quite heartbreaking, and your heart becomes vast as realization deepens. But it changes actually in a different kind of way, and it's a little hard to explain why, but I can explain it. But it's a little hard to explain it because it's subtle. But what happens, I find, is things get so singular that you don't entertain ideas and concerns and worries about something that's not happening right here in an irrelevant way, in a way that's not practical. So in a practical way, you may still be concerned with issues of the world and problems and so forth. You may act on it. You may donate money. You may volunteer in those spaces or whatever. That all can still happen, but there's not a preoccupation with it anymore. There's not a preoccupation with the suffering of others. Yeah. And it turns out that is actually the true end to violence, is to see so thoroughly how it arises and to see so thoroughly that it's ultimately innocent and it's based on delusion, misperceiving reality. And you just feel compassion all through it for everyone, the victims, the victimizers, the victims who become victimizers, all of it, you know. And you also aren't preoccupied with it. So you can respond so much more simply to everything, whether it's violent or nonviolent. And it tends to have an effect around you to various degrees, a sort of soothing effect. It's in how you move, how you look at people. It changes everything. So that's my answer for that. I don't know how satisfying it was, but I could break it down a lot more and go into depth, but in the interest of time, I'll just keep it at that. Okay, where are we here? Lubena. Haha, the journey of taints continues. The joinery. I don't know if you meant to say joinery or journey, but it's still funny. Juliet. Yay, you made it live. Oh, yeah. Ashley said, I've made a huge improvement with chronic pain with this process. Like I said, I don't prescribe it for anything, but it tends to help chronic pain a lot, for sure. But again, at first it can be a little more, your experience of it can be more poignant and more obvious because you can't run away from it anymore. But that's good because that allows you to penetrate it, to go fully into it and see what is actually going on. Yeah. And that can change things at all kinds of levels. Gareth, I understand that distance space is an overlay by the mind as vision starts at it as a 2D image on the retina. So the mind has to add it to feel 3D. But does that mean that distance and space isn't really there? You know, this could... so I'll say it's an interesting thing. The other day I saw a video by a scientist, like a physicist, talking about how long it takes light to travel. It's like it takes light to travel this many light years to get to the next whatever star, and then this is the edge of the galaxy, and it's always fun to hear that stuff. But I also thought it was fascinating because they left out a really important point that is scientifically true, and it's because of this special theory of relativity, and that is, from the perspective of light, there is no distance. That's what E equals mc squared ultimately means. That light does not experience distance. Length contracts to 0. It also doesn't experience time because it's kind of time dilated to infinity from the point of view of light. So really, again, it comes down to identity. What are you? In that moment when there's no identity left and there's just the scene, we could say that maybe it's light. Is there a difference between the other side of the universe and this side of the universe? Between the molecules in your hand and the molecules in a distant supernova? What makes those different? What makes those different? Only a belief in identity in the frame of reference we're talking about, excluding the fact that light doesn't experience that. So it feels rather like what infinite time and zero distance is described as by the special theory of relativity. That's very, very close to, or very overlapping of, the experience of non-duality. It's kind of cool, huh? And then, we could talk about form, right? Well, let's look into quantum field theory. Quantum field theory would actually say there's no actual physical existing matter. There are only excitations in infinite fields. That's it. So that's kind of interesting. Science is great if you just take it. You got to go to the extremes of science, I think, to start to see the experiential crossover here, in my opinion. But again, understanding it scientifically, it's not a realization. You can have a great scientific model and understanding. People have far more understanding than I do, of course, about these theories that don't have the realization of it. So I think if they did, they'd probably go, oh, okay, yeah, wow, this lines up with all the things I've just theorized before. How's Violet doing? She's doing well. Yeah, she's doing better. All right. Okay, here comes Mallory's comment. Maybe it's a question. Most profound non-dual quote. Tain't no thing but a chicken wing. Okay. That's awesome. I thought maybe you came up with a question. But you know what? A taint comment's even better than a question. More fun. Fadi. Hi, Angelo. Is there anything you find worthwhile sharing about global awakening and the shift it will create in society? I have no idea what it'll do in society, but I do feel there's a global shift and awakening happening and starting and coming and propagating. I do believe it. It seems like it. What will that mean? It's really hard to know. Major restructuring and everything. We need it. I know we need it. That's about all I can say. Okay, Priscilla. Message retracted. Man, that's a great message. That's the lesson right there. Nothing. Speaking of energy, thank you for the grounding exercises, the melting butter visualization. Yeah, I gave a talk on this. Boy, I don't remember the name of my talk, but you can find it in my recent videos within the last couple weeks. I gave a talk on grounding energy, grounding Kundalini energy and things like that, if anyone's interested. Grounding exercises, which can be really helpful if you have a lot of high energy type stuff going on. Taint energy moving up my spine. Yeah. Lady Sphenoid, agree with somatic therapies for rage, anger, pent-up and resentment. I think so. They're very energetic emotions and very hot emotions, so it really helps to do somatic practices. DVD Mon, It's interesting. Since retreat, I seem to have less pressure in my head, almost lightheadedness in some way. That's great. Kind of like I don't take things as heavily as I did. Wonderful. How to get out of survival mode. Oh, man. Wake up. That was my cure for all the horrible dysphoria that I experienced as a human being. Yeah. But in practical terms, how to get out of survival mode, do things that are soothing and comforting. Find them for yourself. You may already know a bunch, but, try things. Try walks in nature. Give yourself time and space to do that. Baths, grounding exercises, singing intuitively, intuitive dance, intuitive movement, TRE, as we talked about earlier. All of those things can help. And look up what do you call it? Vagal reafferentation. Vagal reafferentation. There's a lot of things that can do that. That's a good idea. Go to the overpass and scream. Yeah, I know people who've done it. I haven't done it. Okay, Aaron says, I'm doing traditional Theravada Vipassana. Today my mind wouldn't stay with the breath at all, but return to sound and thoughts. Is there any point to forcing the mind back into the object? Well, I can't talk about Vipassana practices because I don't know them. I haven't learned them specifically. So I don't want to mix what I'm saying with that, like maybe ask that teacher or whatever. But I can tell you my own experience, breath practice and breath meditation did not work for me early on. Like now it's easy. Like the sensation of the breath is wonderful. But early on, like to try to focus on a breath, and I can't say it didn't work. It did something, but it didn't do what I wanted it to do. I wanted to break through. And so, I don't know. For me, it never really resonated so much until way later on. Forcing attention onto one thing can be tricky, especially the senses and especially before awakening. That's why with awakening, we actually learn that we can keep the attention in consciousness as an object in a certain way. And it can be tricky at first. It can feel cumbersome and confusing and unwieldy. But over time, all of a sudden, something dawns on you. It's almost like, oh, okay, I'm trying to direct my attention to something, but suddenly you can realize what your attention is rooted in. What is attention? What is the source of attention right now? When you find that, that's a totally different experience, right? From there, you just proceed naturally into deeper investigations of the senses and so forth. Before awakening, holding your attention in one sense, body sense, breath sense, anything, for a long time can be very difficult for some people. It was very difficult for me, and it wasn't fruitful. Later on, it was fruitful, but not early. So I usually recommend working on that first awakening. I have my playlist called Basics. I have Basics of Awakening, and then I have Awakening Approaches. And those are all for like really orienting toward that first one. I did a pretty nice recording the other day. At least I thought it was nice. That I hadn't done before. It was on, what is it called? I can't remember what it's called, but it was the one-pointed approach. It may have been called the one-pointed approach, but I have a video in the last few weeks. You can check that out. And that's kind of pointing you to what I'm talking about here, where you start to recognize consciousness as the source of attention can be a very easy place to rest. In fact, it can be so easy that you realize you're always resting there, Don't realize it intellectually, though. You got to get at it. You got to get down to it. Get to the heart of the matter when it comes to consciousness, or what we take ourselves to be, that initial shift. All right. Saranish, thank you for all the retreat. Angelo, poetry opened the world for me. Yay. First, I did a crazy chapstick poem. I remember that was a good one. It was out of my comfort. And then I learned time was just a thought. Boom. Susan. Hey, Susan. That was a good poem. Hey, Peter. Soren. Taint release exercises. Yeah, it does. It releases all the muscles. Peter, on the retreat, I also heard very little of my Q&As, meditations, talks, or Violet meditations. The sound was really bad. Oh, interesting. No one told me that at the retreat. No one mentioned that they couldn't hear at all. I wish I would have heard that. We could have adjusted. But just so you know, we do like with the sound guys, they walk in the back and they adjust the sound levels as we're talking. We sit out in the audience and sit everywhere and make sure it sounds good with both men and women talking before we start. So we do a lot to make it sound good, but I didn't hear that. No one told me at all or passed a note or anything that they couldn't hear. In the future, maybe I can talk about that at the beginning of the retreat in the future of like where consider sitting somewhere else, or if you're hard of hearing, they have hearing devices you can use that's like you put it in your ear basically. But I did announce that at the beginning of the retreat. So sorry about that. Okay. Chapstick poem was awesome. Hilarious. Is practice pointless in the sense that it perpetuates a person? No. What perpetuates a person is believing in the person. Believing you're going to get something in the future. Believing that awakening is something that happens later. Not recognizing your own thoughts. Not recognizing the thoughts that are seeking thoughts, that are actually keeping you up in your mind and keeping you oriented to this imaginary future. That's somewhat counterproductive, but that's already happening, right? Good practice is showing you how to go beyond that, to go beyond time, to go beyond the sense of a person and the way you think about yourself and the seeking person. Good practice, you go right beyond that. So, yeah. And when I say you go beyond it, of course, that's just a conventional way of speaking. Priscilla, I felt many times that what I really am, and in the moment, I felt the only reality. It felt like the only reality. But when I see myself going back in my real life, this way of living seems so alien compared to the way everyone, I'm guessing you're going to say, oh, here it is. The way everyone I know lives. That it feels it wouldn't be possible for me to live like this. Any thoughts? Well, I mean, I guess the question that comes to me is, why do you have to worry about that? You're not going back. There's no going back. So it's a conceptual thing. It's just a sort of imagination thing, right? I wouldn't. It's like don't borrow trouble. You aren't going back. You're only going one direction, and that's deeper. Rational Mystic, welcome as a supporter. Thank you. Bob. Yes, you can slide into initial awakening waiting for the other shoe to drop. Oh, of course. In fact, you kind of always slide into initial awakening, truly. Even someone who has a very rigid, dedicated, directed practice, even in a very traditional setting, like a monastic setting, even then, if you talk to somebody about what really happened at awakening, it's usually like, I was pushing so hard. I kept trying. I was keeping my attention and my focus, and I just exhausted myself. I couldn't do it anymore. You can't force the hand of reality, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just hits you over the head. Like, oh, whoa. So in a way, it always sneaks up on you, really. No matter how much you feel like you've been practicing or not at all, it sneaks up on you. It's really fun that way. Lady Sphenoid. Also, breath work for moving energy. Yeah, actually. Yes, with breath work, just be careful if you're having a really charged energy, if you're having a very high energy experience, you don't want to overdo breath work. You want to do very gentle breath work, because breath work can be energetically activating as well as, probably can be grounding too, but Linda gave 10 pounds. Thank you so much. Where did I go? I dropped myself down in these comments so far. Hey, Brent. Appreciate you too. Hey, Sam. we doing on time? We have a few minutes left. Let me scroll down to the bottom a little bit and just look real quick here. Rafi, welcome as supporter. Thank you. Someone else said they had no problem with the sound. I'm guessing most people didn't have problems with the sound just because with 250 people, someone would have told me if it was like really bad, I would think. But but we did. We walked around. We listened to it. I went to the back when Violet was playing and listened. And yeah, some of it may just be like you're kind of going into like more of a consciousness experience. That's what happens to me if I listen to like a non-dual teacher or something. Like I don't hear what they're saying. I'm just like in presence. It just melts into like deeper presence maybe or something. Juliet, you're welcome for all the videos. Gareth said the one-pointed approach video was good. Watched it several times. Good. I'm glad it was helpful. Someone asked, Oversampled asked, is one-pointed sitting in the IM sense until it shifts you? I would say go to the video. The video will answer it. I'd rather not try to reconstruct it here when I made a really good video about it in the last few weeks ago. So go check it out and see what you think. Cindy, hi from Arkansas. First live. Yay. Glad to see you. Linda said, I came to non-duality via speaking with teachers who emphasize the idea of realizing that you are effortless infinite being and Indian concepts like the koshas. Is this compatible with your approach? Well, I don't have an approach. I don't think I have an approach. Sometimes people will be like, oh yeah, the way you teach is like this. I'm like, okay. But I can immediately think of exceptions because I teach in all different ways. My approach, if there is one, is to orient you, in reference to what you're saying here, if I was going to say what my approach is to orient you to your natural awakeness, to your natural inclination to realize your awakeness. It's to orient you to your instinct that's always been there and it's always known where to go. And all other practices, models, traditions, techniques are secondary to that. Doesn't mean that they're not valuable, but they're secondary. That if I have an approach, that's what my approach is. So that's compatible with anything, but it's mostly compatible with your own drive to wake up, your true nature. Yeah. That's what I point to again and again. Now, I say when it comes to practices and traditions and things, try things, see what works for you. And also see maybe sometimes why you're in a certain tradition or a certain group or whatever, because sometimes it's a mixed bag. Sometimes we do it because that's just what we fell into, or it's familiar in a certain way, but it's not necessarily serving my awakening. And also it may be that it does deeply resonate with you from an awakening standpoint. But understand why you're in a group and what you're getting out of it. What do the group dynamics offer you? And see really clearly that group will not wake you up. Just like I won't wake you up. Just like Eckhart Tolle won't wake you up. You can wake you up. That's the key. That's really important. So that's pretty much what I have to say about that. And I have nothing against traditions. There's all kinds of beautiful, rich traditions. Angelo, do you think there's no consciousness but only perception? If you look physically at the human body, skull, senses, the physical matches with experience. The physical matches with experience. What do you mean by that? There's no experience of consciousness. Okay. This, I think, gets corrected. Everything you're asking here and the way you're perceiving like physicality and stuff, it gets corrected with the first awakening. That's what I think, honestly. To conclude, there is no consciousness, or there is only consciousness, are just thoughts. To conclude, everything is vast awareness, or awareness is not separate from physical objects, those are thoughts, right? Realization has to be realization, not conceptual, not understanding a model or anything like that. When you talk about seeing a physical object and saying, how'd you say it? The object matches experience. There's a lot of things mixed together there, like the sense of there being an object is a conclusion with a sensation. Are you talking about the sensation? And what do you mean by experience? And do you mean, up here you talked about perception. What do you mean by perception? So those are all things that will be unpacked as realization deepens. But I don't want to give a conceptual answer to any of this because it's like, find out. Find out. Find out what is conscious. Find out what does it feel like to be you right now as awake consciousness or awakeness or you? What is that? What is that? It's not contingent upon objects. It's not contingent upon beliefs or thoughts. You could have no thoughts at all right now and you're still right there, aren't you? Or whatever seems to be aware. Yeah. That's where I want you to look first and not make these conceptual delineations so much. Okay. Martin, welcome as a supporter. Thank you. Oversampled, welcome as a sustaining member. Very nice. Now I want to watch Interstellar again. I know, right? So good. Okay, Juliet said, hi there. Hopefully I've made a live as a member. I think so. But I made a mistake, and I made this live to, like, everybody. This is just my own goofy mistake. There's a box I didn't click right. But if questions are working as a member, or yeah, I can see your questions. Yep. Taints for any response. That's good. Yeah, I can see your questions. How can working with conceit and pride lead to shifts or awakening? Yeah, anything can happen. I would work with it at the belief level though, right? Like if I feel conceited in the moment, what does that mean? How do I feel conceited? Like, am I comparing myself to someone else? Okay, break it down. Why? What do I think I'm going to get out of that? What is the comparison to offer? Do I feel, maybe I feel competitive. Maybe I feel jealous, right? Break it down, see what's happening, look closer. That's all I would suggest at this point. If that's interesting to you, look into your beliefs, look into your emotions, look into your perceptions, look into your conclusions. That's what I really think at this level. Or if it just feels suddenly like I really just want to wake up, I would need to wake up from all of this. I'm my own worst enemy here. My thoughts are my own worst enemy somehow. And I don't know why, but I know I need to go beyond that. I need to go beyond my thoughts, beyond myself, as I take myself to be. Then just go for awakening. Go for it. Just go straight after it. That's how I usually point people. But if you're not quite there yet, if this doesn't feel that red hot iron ball you can either spit out or swallow, then do some inquiry. Inquire into what's immediately interesting to you or compelling to you or feels fixated or stuck or any of it. Check it out through inquiry. Yeah. Linda M, welcome as supporter. Thank you. And thank you for the donation down below. That was really nice of you. Tim, welcome as supporter. Thank you. One-on-one chat. I don't really do it. But if you contact me through email, I can often relate you to somebody. I'll find somebody for you. And it's pretty valuable. It works really well. Okay, Gloria said, quite often when I do go to sleep, I feel like I'm physically falling outside my body into a hole. Any idea what this is? Could be anything, but it's maybe a good sign. See if you can fall out when you're awake. See if you can find that in your experience right now. Go through that hole. Release date for the documentary. It's really hard to say. Gosh, if I had to guess, 3 months for the first one, maybe? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have enough experience, and even if I did, it's still, hard to predict because it's a lot of editing. Jair. Hi, Angelo. Thank you for everything. How would you approach thought streams after First Awakening, or would you approach them differently at all? Yeah, I do recommend often people like meditate with unbound consciousness or in unbound consciousness. And I have a whole playlist to teach you how to do that called consciousness. That's what I recommend. Hey, Brent. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate you as well. Thank you. And back up to Sam. Okay, I met myself in the middle. Why is belief that I can do something about a thought so pervasive and persistent? Because it's only to the degree that you still believe a thought represents anything at all. If you believe that thought represents a person, yourself, a time, an event in the past, anything you believe that thought refers to, anything that thought seems to refer to the degree that you believe that actually exists, you're going to have some reactivity to thought. Does that make sense? The tendency to stand somewhere and do something about it is tireless. Yeah. Can't manage thoughts. If you go to war with thoughts, the war just goes on and on and on and on. I would recommend what I said before to someone else here is go to my consciousness playlist and try meditating with unbound consciousness in all the various ways, and just see if you can dial into it. See if you can dial yourself into that. That's what I would recommend. Maybe put other things aside and just see, because it can become a very enjoyable practice, and it's a very simple practice. But it also makes it so thoughts are not a problem, certainly while you're doing it. And it usually spills over into other areas as well. Okay. Thomas, welcome to Patron Circle member. All right. Rafi, welcome to supporter. Trees seem to have a fuzzy cloud experience. Yeah. Thanks, Mallory. All right. Logan, I've been having tastes. Person becomes flat and thinker and thoughts merge. Yeah. Re-identification has to do with face and being behind the eyes. My practice is finding the self. If you have any comments. Re-identification with the face and being behind the eyes. Just remind yourself in that moment, or ask yourself, do I see a face and eyes? Or is that a memory or a thought? Right? It's like the headless way. Let's try that. Linda, you're very welcome. Okay, oversampled. What I mean is that there's perception, but no perceived. Like, I guess you'd call that non-dual, only objects, no one perceiving them. What I would call non-dual is the seeing very clearly that there is no perception or objects. That perception as a faculty and the appearance of there being an object are actually like dependently interwoven. That's what I would call non-duality, if that works. If you say there's perception but no perceived, it doesn't feel quite like that. It feels more like there's a perceived but no perception. But the perceived is not an object. Very, very importantly, not an object. So, but that's just a way of trying to describe something that's not describable. But the whole mechanism of perception really gets seen through. There's no distance for perception. There's no perceptual distance. There's no duality. So, yeah, it doesn't arise that way. And then formlessness becomes clear. So then there are no objects and no subjects. So that's why you can't really understand this too early on before some insight, direct insight, because the way the mind makes the model is the way the mind's going to ask the question. And the mind's already making models of 3 dimensions and doership and subject and object and layers of things and distance. And that's just the way the mind functions. So it's going to ask a question already assuming some of that stuff. It'll try not to assume some of it to try to understand it, but it's already assuming other parts of it in the question itself, and it's just really obvious. So insight is key here. Really is important. Okay. Cuddly Koala Mama. That's really cute. Welcome as a supporter. Thank you. If you have a lot of trauma, TRE may actually look like twerking. TRE can get rather active, for sure. Person lady. A week ago today, I was driving back to Ontario, Canada from my retreat. Wow. It's a good drive, I think, huh? I'm a gift to you all. You're all a gift to me. Who would I talk to about this otherwise, right? That was nice having everybody at that retreat. It was such a blast. Grace, I appreciate you too. You're welcome. Ian, you're welcome, and I appreciate you too. Cuddly Koala says, life moves emotion. Is there stress? Can be there. Fear, anxiety, but it doesn't relate to a person. True. And yet there still feels like a story continues and it's still struggle and sometimes more struggle. That's I think non-dual realization is important there. Otherwise just the sort of fundamental feeling of dualistic experience will still be there. Even if you have clarity and especially in the world of narratives and thoughts, there's clarity there. There can still be a feeling of dualistic experience. Yeah, start working with the senses. Logan, you're welcome. Brad, you're welcome. Ian, I can relate to learning way too much about this stuff before getting any insight. Just stay curious and relax. You're not going to figure it out anyway. I mean, you really, really, really are not. And, this is one of those things I mention periodically because some people really fixate with this in this way with intellectual understanding of this stuff. I don't want to pick on anybody, and I don't want to, I don't want to discredit or I don't want to discourage even intellectual curiosity, really. But I do have to be honest and give you a disclaimer that intellectual understanding will not do this. It will not cross you over. It just doesn't. And it can't stop it from happening, but it can be a pretty consistent distraction. So you can use understanding of awakening to prevent yourself from waking up and not even know you're doing it. To distract yourself from really letting go, I guess, let's say it that way, and not know you're doing it. It's just like that. It's just one of those things. It's like I understand all the fun of knowing stuff. I like to know stuff. I like to learn stuff. I learn stuff all the time. I love it. But this is not of that world. It's just not of that realm. And that's freaking awesome. So good that it's that way. Trust me. You wouldn't want it the other way. Not that it could be, but I mean, you wouldn't want this if this was all just intellectual. That's not what you're looking for. Martin says, as a child, I was totally convinced I was immortal. Did you feel like that? I don't remember feeling that. I don't really remember that part. It's hard to say. I definitely had some clarity as a child at times. I knew there was something going on that was not what we talked about was going on. I knew that. Australian retreat, yes. Go to Violet/Synergy or Violet-Synergy. So Violet's website, that's where it's her team put it together basically. Even though it's a shared retreat, we both have all of our stuff in it. Her team is the one that is coordinating it and all that. So it's on her website. Check it out. It's gonna be fun. All right, Jenny, boundless.genergy. That's cool. Not sure if I'm short on time, but you missed some questions in the middle there, including mine, and oh my goodness. Let me try to find it. Maybe cut and paste it. Cut and paste it to the bottom because I'm not going to find it. This is Person Lady. Great name. You're teaching me to live in my body instead of my mind, and until I stumbled upon you, I didn't realize I had only lived in my mind for 47 freaking years. Right? 24 years here. Not quite as long, but man. Something, isn't it? It's really sad how many people just live there and how much suffering it causes them. Confusion and disassociation and disorientation and unnecessary seeking and anxiety and depression and all of that. Yeah. So if anyone's question I missed, I'll be on here for a few more minutes. Just cut and paste it down here. Right? Like so I can see it. Poetry contest I'm excited about. I haven't watched. I've clicked on some of the videos just to make sure that they're like viewable and stuff. But I haven't watched one single poem yet. I'll do them at the same time, and I'll have some other judges, people going through them, and we'll have the top 5 in both the U.S. and Canada category and the not U.S. and Canada category, which is everywhere else. And we'll have good prizes for both, but one of them will be physical prizes, one will be not physical prizes because of shipping and all that. So that's coming up probably in the next couple months. 25,000 subscribers. I have the main art piece giveaway that's an original by Cryptic. Check his stuff out. CRYPTIK. He has really fun stuff. Amazing stuff. I can tell you the title of it's called Starseed. That's really cool. So I have it. I had to open it because I want to look at it, but I won't keep it, even though I kind of want to keep it. Okay, Jenny. First timer here, but doing the work with you for a while. Good. Working with a lot of emotions, reactivity, trauma, beliefs. Also feeling lots of energy moving, doing TRE and working with Chris. You're doing all the things. That's all I would recommend, man. You got this down. It'll pay off. Things will move. Okay. Of this comes, let's see. Some of this comes with inquiry, however, not touched in unbound consciousness or the radiance and clarity that many speak of. Very much identified with the me that I've always known. Yeah. What I would recommend is go get out a sheet of paper or a phone and write down all of the benefits of being identified with that me that you've always known. Everything you've gotten out of it or seem to have gotten out of it. Then write down on another column all of the benefits, all the detriments of being identified with that me that you've always known. Not necessarily you and your essence or what your true nature. I mean, the you that you've known or known about or believed about. Look at both sides of that. It can be helpful to explore it a little bit. And then once you've done that, like take some time with that, a couple days or whatever, and sit with it. And then after you've sort of digested that, ask yourself a question of, am I willing to let go of that? Why or why not? What are my fears? What are my hopes? And then if I do let go of that and I encounter a vast mystery and I can't know what's beyond that, how do I feel about that? Does that feel like something you want to do, something you're afraid of? But I would kind of explore it and unpack it like that. It can help preliminarily. If you feel like doing something, you don't even have to do something. You're already doing plenty. It'll pay off. Okay, Juliet said, thank you so much. You're welcome. Oh, yeah, she was thinking someone else. And me. Awesome work, Violet. Yeah. Okay, so I answered Jeannie. Retreat was so good. The center was amazing. It is. They have great food, too. I'm not necessarily very vegetarian, but I love vegetarian food when it's cooked well, and they cook it really well. They do a great job. Pajai, 0, I think. Missed as well. Until what point is a single pointed approach, mu or self-inquiry, useful? Until awakening. Cut and dry. Yeah, I would say you do it until awakening. That's the point, especially with mu and one pointed approach. That is literally the point. You don't crack mu until you crack awakening. They're the same thing. So yeah, that's how we do that. Ashley said, writing the poem for the poetry contest was so much fun, inspired a new passion for me. Yay! I'm excited. I can't wait to read yours or hear yours. Rafi, tips with stuck emotions in the body. Feels like there's a lot more. Yeah, I have a whole playlist called Emotions and Shadow Work. I would just work through that, try different things. Do try TRE. It's very direct. It's a very direct somatic approach, but it's not necessarily magic, but it does really wondrous things for some people. And with the stuck emotions in the body, yeah, again, like I said a little earlier, ask yourself, what am I feeling? Just get in the habit of asking yourself throughout the day, even if it's not an intense emotion or anything, just out of curiosity, what am I feeling right now? And see if you can put a label to the emotion, and then see if you can drop in and feel it. And you may be feeling mixtures of emotions. That's often how it feels when we feel stuck or like a really dense and energetic emotion body. We may have multiple competing emotions or just different emotions sort of tied up in there. So it can be helpful to do that for sure. Logan, from what you say in your book and a recent video, you spent a week in one pointed state before awakening, right? Just curious now. I can't remember this is 24 years ago, 25, 24 years ago. So I can't remember the exact time frame, but that's kind of what I remember. Yeah, that's kind of how I remember it. But it really does not matter what happened to me, because it may not be like that for anyone else. It may be very different. All right. Aaron, can you speak more on letting go or relaxing? I let go enough to fall asleep every night, as well as sink into what feels like deep meditation. Not sure how to let go more, and I hear you and others speak. I mean, it sounds like you do sink in pretty deep. That's great. You can literally just ask as you're sitting and meditating, how can I let go just a little bit more? I think Adyashanti has said that. It's kind of from him. I didn't make that up. How can I let go just a little bit more? Or what would it be to let go just a little bit more right now? Or am I willing to be let go of? Any of those. Yeah, the significance of just letting go, it's powerful, but to be in all honesty, you can't always just let go. You can try. You can want to let go. You can intellectually think, no, I want to let go right now, but something doesn't let go. So that's when you're confronting the truth that the mind is not what it says it is. It's not in control in the way it says it is. So, yeah. Tia, I thought I had a shift 2 weeks ago. Feelings of lightness, no problem, but thoughts still present. Today I realized perceiver is also a thought. For some reason, I feel defeated, like the awakening. Yeah, it may have been more of a pre-taste sort of thing. But everything you're saying here sounds like you're oriented well. You know? Yeah, keep digging in. Go beyond that defeat, because it's a thought. Go beyond the perceiver, that's a thought. Go beyond the awakening that I had or didn't have 2 weeks ago as a thought. Go beyond the time. Go beyond weeks, days, months, moments, seconds. Go beyond all of it. The million things. You said before there's no way that things are. Yet there's motives, hidden motives, or if I drop in. Okay. When I say there's no way that things are, this is a very, very deep stage insight. So to intellectualize it will do no good at all. And to compare it to your experience before that becomes obvious may be a hindrance. All of those things that you're talking about, hidden motives, competing agendas, interpreting physical phenomenon like dropping a glass of water, all of that is actually, I could say it's thought or belief, but more than that, it's actually based on deeper beliefs. There's so many implied beliefs in this, like agency, that you're doing something, causing something, that there is separation in the first place between the glass and the floor and you and your hand and the universe. So there's so many implied not misperceptions, but perceptual filters in the questions, right? That I would say getting even under those fundamental perceptions or misperceptions or perceptual filters is a prerequisite to even getting to the space where non-doership and non-agency becomes obvious. And only from there will you probably naturally proceed to this more paradoxical insight of complete framelessness, formlessness, non-abiding. There's no way that things are. Seeing the framing tendency of the mind as nothing but a mechanism from nowhere. You're not even seeing that from somewhere. So yeah, it's a little down the road. Maybe. Could be very near too. All right. When you can see that everything you let go of has never been there, and there's no limitation, and we are limitless. I liked it right up until it says we are limitless, because why identify with limitlessness? Like, there's no need to identify with anything. Like, let's just let the dropping drop. Let's let the letting go naturally let itself go more and more and more, ongoing. Yeah. I still feel holding. Yeah. The holding is the you that's feeling limitless, essentially. There's something trying to own the experience. There's something trying to put its mark on the experience. That's trying to co-opt the experience. And it's a subtle something. It's just a tendency. I'm answering quickly now because I'm basically out of time, but I'm over time. That's okay. One world within. You're very welcome. One-on-one, no. But if you email me, I can always point you to somebody. Angelo at simplyalwaysawake.com. You've got to watch out with these "there's no one here" sayings and adopting them. Oh, yeah. I don't know why teachers use them. It's risky because it's very easy to conceptualize that, first of all. It's also easy to use it. If somebody really disassociates a lot, like pathologically disassociates, it's fuel for that. And so can be unhelpful. There can be times when it's important to speak that way, depending on where somebody is. But if that's like the only teaching, it's fixated at best. And it can really become misleading. So good point. The warrior spirit. I love that. Absolutely. I talk to people who have the warrior spirit, and it plays into the process. But you may have to lay down the sword. You have to use that sword for a while and then lay it down, to go through. It's an archetype. It's a beautiful archetype. Don't forget to pay myself time and a half. Let's see. 1.5 times 0 is 0. Just kidding. I don't pay myself from this stuff, but yeah. It was good to hang out with y'all for so long. Nice to see you. Thanks, Soren. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Leah. Thanks, Stevie Demon. Thanks, One World Within. Cuddly Koala Mama. Jennifer Santos. Lubina, thank you. Thank you all. Y'all are awesome. And look forward to a double barrel non-duality announcement in the very near future. Come join us on a retreat in the near future if you want to, including the one at the end of December. Thank you all.